Rav Hirsch has I guess what would be termed a comprehensive, maybe intricate approach towards symbolism in Jewish life. And as part of his symbolism, he talks about the symbols of history as well, and brings down the rainbow and the covenant that between God and mankind on the rainbow. Is this also an expression of an optimism towards humanity? Is that how Hirsch would place that symbol?
Is it okay if I answer the question but move from the rainbow to a different example? Is that right?
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
Okay, great. So I want to answer your question. I just think there's another example that'll be more helpful for me, okay, because it'll combine almost three different themes I want to talk about today. So we already mentioned his interest in symbolism and applying that to the details of mitzvot. We mentioned his optimism. Something we have not mentioned yet is certainly in Judaism, there are different approaches to physicality. And you could have an approach that kind of wants to minimize physicality, a more ascetic approach. And you could have an approach that emphasizes the sanctification of the physical. Okay, and I think it's clear an honest portrayal of rabbinic sources could portray rabbis who are more in one camp and more in the other camp. Rav Hirsch, I think befitting his optimism, is very firmly in the camp that the physical is not meant to be rejected. It's not meant to be, reduced to an absolute minimum. It's meant to be used well, used in a joyous fashion and in morally appropriate fashion, and used as a form of divine service. So let's talk about the classic test case. I think when Jews ask what your approach to physicality is, it almost seems like Nazir is always the go-to example. Because here we have someone who is temporarily renouncing certain things, for example, not partaking of wine for a particular period. And do we view that as an ideal or not? Right? Those that view it as an ideal tend to be a little bit more on the minimize the physicality camp. And those that say, no, it's actually a necessary evil, right? It was never the ideal to be a Nazir. It's just that that's what some Jews might need at a given point in time. So they tend to be more on the robust appreciation of physicality camp. So again, I wouldn't say this is the only move, but it's often a good test case. If you know what a thinker thinks on this, move to Nazir and you'll get a sense. So Rav Hirsch, of course, is in the second camp. Nazir is not an ideal at all. Nazir is a temporary, necessary evil, as it were, but he does something amazing. This, I'm not aware of anybody else who does. There's a little known halacha that, even though it's in the psukim, I think we just all miss it. I know, like when I discovered it, maybe I was in my 40s already. Okay, the Nazir also doesn't get a haircut. The Nazir grows her hair or his hair, and at the end, the Nazir cuts the hair. But here's what nobody knows: they use the hair as kind of kindling material for a flame that's going to cook a korban shlamim. Okay, this again, it's kind of fascinating because you think, oh, there must be like some obscure drasha that teaches you this. It says it black and white in the psukim. Read the psukim in Parsha Naso. It says you take the hair, you use it to kindle as a fuel, as firewood, as it were, and then you're able to burn and cook the korban shlamim. So Rav Hirsch says, and this is classic Rav Hirsch use of symbolism. Again, if I went to the Rambam or the Chinuch on Nazir, I imagine they explain the purpose of Nazir. I admit I didn't check, but I would bet neither one explains the specific symbolism of burning the hair under the korban shlamim. Like that level of detail, most Tamiya Mitzvot people do not get to. But Rav Hirsch says, that's exactly the whole point. The hair represents the Nazir's abstention, right? The Nazir did not get a haircut. What is unique about a korban shlamim? Korban shlamim is the one korban that everybody can eat from, right? A korban ola, nobody eats from. A korban chatat, only the kohanim, only the priests can eat. And a korban shlamim, everybody, like the owners could eat it. You could, everyone who's tahar could come and eat the korban shlamim. So shlamim would become a symbol of the usage of the physical in religious worship. And I'll go a step further. It's not only that it's allowed to eat the korban shlamim, I think a deeper understanding would view it as it's part of the religious service. It's part of the religious ritual, right? The korban shlamim is meant to be eaten, right? It's not just an option for dinner. So at that point, says Rav Hirsch, look what we've done. we've taken the hair that symbolizes the abstention of the Nazir, and we're using it as a means to prepare the shlamim, which is the return to physicality. So here, I think our triple themes of Rav Hirsch come together beautifully. Okay, we have, again, I think the optimism is related. Well, let me just explain that, although maybe the listeners understand, right? I'm connecting optimism to appreciating physicality, because I'm arguing that what would be a more negative view? Physicality can't be redeemed. It's bestial. It's just what humanity shares with the animal kingdom. We could easily imagine the animal kingdom gobbling up lunch. So at that point, it's not really redeemable. Where the optimists would say, no, humanity, again, we could do it, even though there's something perhaps, I don't know, animalistic about physicality. But it's different when human being does it. We do it in a different way. We do it with restraint. We do it with refinement. So I'm saying the optimism leads to a more positive thinking about physicality. And then you have Rav Hirsch, again, using the symbolism of Tamei Mitzvahs beautifully, right? That is manifest in the hair servicing the shlamim. So again, I apologize, I didn't answer the rainbow example, but just the Nazir example just spoke to my purposes so beautifully, I had to go with it.